Well, first of all, thanks to Raj for inviting me here. I definitely appreciate that. It's my pleasure to talk a little bit about how we can work together. I've been working at Google now for over 7 years, working with executive partners, and I'm now working with, as Raj said, executive partners at online travel agencies. But the truth is that one of the great things about the web is that it's democratic. It's open, and people can get on and use it, make it work for them no matter what their situation. And that customization is one of the most beautiful things about working with Google and about working with the web in general. But let's talk a little bit about what we'll cover today. We're going to take, I think, about the first 45 minutes or so to talk about content. And this is going to be what we'll be covering. The purpose here is to give you some ideas about what you can walk out with, to give you opportunities, to give you tools to drive your businesses forward with Google, but really anywhere online. And what we're going to do is cover a few pieces of this. The first piece is what this digital revolution actually means in travel. What has digital meant to the way people book hotels, for example? Then we'll talk a little bit about how we reach out to customers, how we do outbound marketing in such a way that we can grab a hold of the right people at the right time in the right way and get them to come to our businesses, get them to book with us and not somewhere else. And we'll be talking a little bit about extending the way we view data internally, such as revenue management, extending that way of thinking before you've ever acquired the customer. So taking revenue management from a pricing exercise largely into a pre-acquisition marketing assessment opportunity. We'll be talking from there once people are interested in what you've got, and once you've harnessed that demand, how to make the booking process better. That is, how to turn that demand, that interest in your business, in your hotel, in your lodging, in your restaurant, into an actual customer more effectively. That's the other side of the coin, not just getting the right people in the door, but getting them to buy stuff. And the last piece is how to manage this on an ongoing basis. We're all interested in return on investment. How do we look back, make sure that we're spending our money in the right places, and then as we move forward, make investments in the right channels at the right time in the right way. And when we get out of here, hopefully you'll be able to go right back to your businesses and have some ideas what you can do right now to make more money with Google, but also with the web more broadly. So why don't we start out by talking about the digital revolution and your customers. So a key thing to keep in mind is the role the web has started to take in people's lives. Many of us feel this intuitively from how much we use the web, how much we use Google. But when you take a look at data from formal sources, you see that the web in some ways has become equal to a close friend or a family member. When we look at this data, the first time I saw it, it shocked me. It'll stand out to you right now that the internet is in fact virtually tied, or indeed out in front of our closest people, the closest people in our lives, in terms of a reliable source for our travel decision making. 62% to 61, family, friends, and colleagues narrowly edges out the web as a source of inspiration for travel. The internet, though, skies family, friends, and colleagues when it comes to travel planning. Regardless of what level of connection you're trying to make to your customer base, it seems pretty clear that at this point the web has reached a special place. Really, there's nothing close to the web outside of your closest personal acquaintances, friends, and family to approximate the relationship you can have with your customers via the internet. And since it's really not feasible for all of you to have a family, friend, or colleague vouch for you with every possible customer you'd want to reach, the internet becomes the next best option. In a similar vein, we can talk about the quality of those interactions with your customers. So in the previous section, we took a quick look at how often users are using the web, but it didn't, strictly speaking, get into what they do when they're engaging with the web. And when we take a look at these statistics, we see that there's really a wide variety of activities going on with customers when they're using the internet. There are a few statistics that particularly surprised me here. One was the video statistic, so third up from the bottom. I had no intuitive sense that so many users were watching travel videos to figure out where they were going to go, what they were going to do, or even just vicariously enjoying a destination or a particular property. But it turns out that's a widely adopted activity, not just among leisure users, but in fact even more so among business travelers, with 47%, nearly half of business travelers watching travel videos for inspiration and planning purposes. The other statistic that interested me greatly was specifically looking about this brainstorming piece. So at the very beginning of the process, even before you start doing the research in depth, when you're just coming up with ideas, again, between 40 and 50% of users doing that. And even more surprising, this research statistic around getting deep into the process, even further down the funnel, 54%, over half of business travelers actively researching a destination, flight, hotel, or vacation as a result of seeing an online ad. Wow. An ad actually set off that entire process. It wasn't just a sideline to the process. It actually was an initiation event. So whether you're trying to get into the research process, whether you're trying to be the stimulus that sets off that research, or looking to be as close to the booking as possible, going after people who are already ready to book, it seems like there's quite a bit of opportunity online to reach travelers, whether they're leisure or business. And in fact, the place you probably want to go online to start is with a search engine. It's most likely going to be one of the first places to start. We can see from this chart that the top three for leisure travelers and business travelers are, in some order, search engines, hotel websites, and airline websites for booking. So in short, they're either coming to us or they're coming to you. And you do a great job with your property. If you have a website, that's within your domain. We'll talk a little bit about how we think you might be able to do even better, but that's squarely within your control in its entirety. The search engine side of the house, though, is a place where we can work together to make life better. We can work together to get more customers who we've seen are engaged with the web. And from these statistics, are specifically engaged with us, with Google and with you, via search. So with that rousing call to action, why don't we talk about what we actually do to go out and engage with these people? What are some of the opportunities we can take to be at that right place at that right time? So what does it mean now to have a right place at a right time? Because it might be different for different folks on this call. So why don't we talk about a way of seeing this interaction path that will guide this discussion for today. So let's start with that stimulus over on the far left. That's the set-off event. That's the awareness point. Something happens to trigger awareness in your potential customer's mind that they could do something. We could take a trip. I could book at your hotel. That's an important moment in that customer's life. Absent that stimulus, they might never be driven to move forward with any process because they never even thought of it. They might never have the motivation to take that step forward. But let's say you go past the stimulus. There's that initial motivation to do something, to go out and figure out what my options are for hotels in a particular city, for example. That leads us to this zero moment of truth, which is, what are my options? I know I got to do something. I know I want to do something. But what are my options? That is a key moment. If you're inside of that option set, that decision-making set, what we often call the consideration set, you got a shot at winning that business. But if you're not a part of that consideration set, not one of the options that your potential users have in mind, then you're most likely not going to make that sale. You're not going to get that customer. But let's say that customer has been stimulated to act. They do their research, they form their consideration set, then they make the call. That's book. That's our first moment of truth. That one's really solidly on your side of the house, which is, what is that interaction going to be like? What is the booking experience like? Whether that's on the website, whether that's calling a sales team, it might even be at your front desk. What does that mean? And then the experience, that's a moment of truth. It's related to your experience. Do you deliver that product, that special magical moment that you've promised to the customer base? I know I've had innumerable special, unique moments, memorable moments in my stays at various hotels across the country and across the world. But that experience from booking through the end of the stay, that is right in the wheelhouse of what you do best. But then there's a second moment of truth that comes after that. And that is all of these continuing experiences. What are the future engagements like? What type of loyalty is there inculcated in your customer base? Do we bring people back again and again? Do we have them visit us at other parts of our chain so that that experience is replicated or improved upon, and they'll come back to us time and time again? We'll always become the first choice. So we're actually going to talk about all of these moments of truth today at some level, but we're going to focus on a few in particular. So we're going to spend this section talking about the stimulus, the zero moment, and the second moment. And in our next major section, we'll turn to the first moment of truth. So why don't we dig in here, starting first with how you get to that zero moment of truth. That zero moment, that's the closest to the booking outside of your site's experience, outside of your call center. So that seems like a good a place as any to begin. So at that zero moment, when a user goes to search, and when they enter a query that says hotels in Vancouver, British Columbia, let's say, the example we have here, they have literally sent a message to Google and, in fact, to all available advertisers that that particular customer is interested in hotels in Vancouver, BC. It sounds obvious, but sometimes it's worth it to take a step back and to say, what exactly is being said when somebody types in a search query, when somebody enters terms into a Google search box and hits enter, or the search button. It's an expression of their intention. Every time somebody goes onto Google and does a search, it's an expression of their intention. So when there are keywords that relate to what your business does, the service you can provide, the experience you have available, you've got an opportunity. You can look for those customers who are looking for what you've got and be present when they're looking, when they're forming the consideration set. Because for many customers, as we saw earlier, the search engine might be their first choice. The first place they go, their most trusted opportunity to figure out, where am I going to book? And whoever shows up at the top of a search results page is often the consideration set, becomes the consideration set. Very important to be there at that zero moment. You're either in that set or you're out. So being there is quite important. And with that level of intention, a customer volunteering to you proactively that they want what you've got, it's a fantastic opportunity to provide a message that carries what you do so well to that qualified customer. A similar capacity exists with our new hotel discovery products. They're rolled out in the United States, but are in the process of being developed and rolled out in other parts of the world. But this hotel discovery process provides a more customized experience for users to find the right hotel in the right place for at the right price. And we're doing quite a number of things to flesh out that experience. But in the same way that search, raw search, involves a declaration of intention, this hotel discovery process does the same. In fact, if anything, the level of qualification is even higher, since the user cares enough to go to a hotel-specific discovery tool, and in fact actually have the opportunity to enter additional data about what they want. So very clear signs in that discovery process before you ever actually show an ad that the person on the other side is a very strong candidate to become your customer. And the way this is all priced is on a cost per click. So you don't pay anything just for showing the ad. When you pay is when you show to a qualified user, somebody who's volunteered that they want what you've got, they read your ad, they see your ad, telling them about what you've got, and they decide the fit is so good, they want to move forward with the process. So again, to recap, these are both methods of connecting with your customer base. When they volunteer what they want, they raise their hand proactively, and only then do you have to make the decision to reach out to potentially spend money to reach these folks. So very different from a number of other types of marketing. Now let's jump past, so that was the zero moment. If we recall, the first moment is the actual booking experience. So let's jump past that booking experience because it's so important and jump all the way to this loyalty piece. So a user comes to the site, let's say, and they decide to book via the website. We have ways of identifying who those users are and letting you keep up the contact with them, not just through email, which is often deleted and provides somewhat of a static experience, but also through this remarketing concept, this concept of sending a message to somebody about whom you already know something. And the ability here, which makes it so special, is to differentiate that message based on what that customer did, and differentiate where you reach that customer based on the activities they took on your site. For example, a customer who books a vacation package through your hotel site might be a great candidate for future vacation hotel upsells. On the other hand, somebody who books a romantic weekend getaway with your hotel in the long run might be a good candidate for a champagne and cheese tasting upsell deal with a future stay at the hotel. But they might also be a good candidate for loyalty-based sales between when they book and when they stay. So for example, somebody booking a romantic weekend getaway but not choosing to add the champagne to the room, a fantastic candidate to send a special offer via an ad with a promo code, giving that bottle of champagne a 10% discount compared to what it would have cost at the time of booking. So a good way to get extra add-ons and extra sources of revenue from customers who have already booked with you and actually provide a superior experience to them in the process, a more customized experience based on what they actually booked with you. The same concept, though, actually applies for reaching what I call the ones that got away, the people who came to your website but didn't actually book. So it doesn't have to be a person who came through a Google ad, say. It's anyone who visits the website and doesn't book with you. That's a potential customer we could have had and didn't get. For many websites, that could be as many as 97 out of 100. It's pretty common for websites to convert in the low single digits the number of visitors to their website into booking customers. Well, this ones that got away concept is how we go after that 97%, let's say. We talked before about how we have the ability to track these folks who reach the end of the booking process and then show them custom messages based on the completed booking. The same principle applies for someone who doesn't complete a booking, say someone who abandons the booking in the final step. The ability to go back to those people and say, give us another chance. We'll sweeten the deal. There's something you missed here. You know they're interested in what you've got. In the example I just gave, they made it to the end of the booking process but didn't quite seal the deal. So we know that they're close to being a customer. It's being able to go back to them and push them over the edge with the help of remarketing very cost-effective way of getting revenue in the door by going after the most highly qualified potential customers. So we talked about these places that are really close to where revenue comes in. Search. Users who are identifying that they're already interested in what you've got. Hotel discovery, similar concept. We talked about remarketing and loyalty. Whether it's just after or just before completing a booking, there's an opportunity to upsell, whether that's an add-on, cross-sell, or getting somebody who didn't complete booking to come back and give you another try. But there's a piece of this that's way out in the front end, which is the stimulus. There's also an element, I suppose, of the consideration set here as well, and that is this research process, this video viewing process. So YouTube is, by a huge margin, the largest video destination for travelers to watch online video. It is by far the largest video destination in the entire world. In the US, to give a little context on this one, there are more unique visitors for YouTube than the next 4 video sites put together, multiplied by 3. Multiplied by 3. That's ComScore Video Matrix. It's really not even close. I could give some other statistics here about just how many users use YouTube. A good example of this is YouTube in January of 2013 had just under 17 billion streams in YouTube video, which is, that's a big number. That's from Nielsen Video Census. Just under 17 billion. The next highest was actually Hulu, with slightly over 1. So roughly 17 times the next largest video site in the United States. And in fact, it is the only place where both business travelers and leisure travelers engage equally. So there's this huge disparity here in terms of the amount of use, in terms of the total number of unique users, and that's maintained with travel specifically too. What are users using YouTube for? Well, one is this piece we explored earlier, the percentage that research using travel video. We called that out in the first part of this discussion. It's massive. It was over half for business travelers. So you've got this incredible rich base of people who are looking for information, who are trying to find inspiration, who are trying to figure out what to do. They all apparently come to YouTube. YouTube actually has a greater share of the US population than Google search does. You've got a pretty compelling case to reach mass numbers of people who are actively engaged, looking for the specific content, and willing to sit through a minute, maybe more, of robust content that you're capable of providing. So a major opportunity here. And the last piece when it comes to opportunities is to just keep your minds open about devices. We live in this very interesting world here where mobile phones are growing at an incredible pace, as are tablets. And that's changing the way that businesses work and operate. It's actually a big opportunity for any company that works in travel, especially any location or destination-based business, since mobile phones have incredible context awareness. According to Focusrite, 32% of mobile web users have completed a mobile web travel booking within the last year. 30%. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. In the United States, you have a majority of the population owning a smartphone, and especially in higher income brackets, it's the vast majority. So you've got this huge cluster of people who are using this. You've got location awareness, where you can tailor your messages and reach people based on where they physically are at that time. Huge opportunity for your hotel, but keep in mind that this is a complicated world where folks jump back and forth between devices. So you have this big opportunity to reach people on their mobile phones, but they may very well end up not booking via the website on their mobile phone. They may come to your desktop. They may call your call center. They may go to a laptop or a tablet. We just rolled out a feature to help track this, which we call cross-device conversion tracking. We'll go into it a little bit later, but just to prime your thinking, it enables you to see and track, using estimated conversions, these paths between devices to understand the total impact of your advertising ecosystem online. There's nothing like this you can get anywhere else with this level of accuracy and comprehensiveness. We'll come back to how it works, and we can certainly take questions on it. But wanted to set that up here because that's a major breakthrough that we literally just announced. That's fresh out the gate. But we talked a lot about what we can do together on the marketing side of the house. Maybe there's something on the booking process that we could work together on. If we think about how much money we make being both the number of people who want to book with us, multiplied by the percentage we actually turn into business, the first piece gets us a lot of good people who we think are likely to buy. But how do we affect our buying process to get better? Well, one answer is make the booking process smoother. We'll come back to a couple of things here, which is speed, simplicity, and integration. Not to pick on the Fairmont. They are not the only ones. It requires 31 clicks minimum to complete a basic booking for a hotel on Fairmont.com. At least it did when I tried. That is a lot. It was something like 18 different fields to fill out. The average for all travel sites is 24. So the Fairmont's not that far off the average here. But regardless, that's a lot to expect your customer to do. That's a huge burden to put on them. And again, it's really not just the Fairmont. If you take a look at a site like Orbitz, that's a good example. On one of their pages during their checkout process, you can be shown at least 38 separate upsells for different activities or add-ons onto a hotel room. I know that because I actually did it myself. And I got curious, if you copied and pasted all of that into a Word document, how much space would it take up? And it was amazing. It was actually 20 pages exactly. 20 pages exactly, single-spaced, in a Word document. Asking one's customers to complete 31 different clicks, 18 different fields to fill out, or in a single page, read 20 pages worth of content is borderline insanity, and it explains why we convert only, say, 3% of our customers from being interested into business. We have an opportunity here to get a lot better, to streamline, to cut down on this waste, to be reasonable. And as a guiding principle before we move on, I would urge you to think of your website like you think of your own property. Or if you're running a restaurant, like you think of your experience, your restaurant experience. Your brand is carried on your online property as much as it is in your physical property. If a person came to your desk in your hotel and said, I know when I want to book, how many nights, I know what type of room I want to book, can I book? How many times would you upsell them? How many additional questions, how many additional steps would you ask them to go through in order to complete the booking? I understand. One might want to upsell a little bit. Perhaps you would like the champagne and chocolates to be added to your room for today. That's okay. We're not saying don't upsell, don't cross-sell. That makes a ton of sense. But there's a big difference between 1 or 2 upsells and cross-sells and 38. And so to sort of make this real, if you go through your website and you read it and you're saying to yourself, how would this sound coming out of my reservation clerk's mouth? Would you like this tour? Would you like the champagne and chocolate in your room? Would you like the free massage package? Would you like the spa package? Would you you get the point. There's a point where enough is enough and less is more. In this case, less is almost always more. Simplicity and speed equals higher conversion rate. And that especially is true for non-traditional devices, so smartphones and tablets. You'll see if we look at accommodations specifically, there's quite a bit of booking, active booking being done on smartphones and tablets, but it's way less than computers. And much of the reason why is because the computer experience is vastly superior to the smartphone and tablet experience. So by improving one's smartphone and tablet experience, you've got a chance to snatch up huge numbers of customers who are faced with inefficiency. We expect, and third-party experts expect, the amount of traffic and travel coming through mobile, smartphones specifically, compared to computer desktops, we expect them to be at parity within the next 1 to 3 years. But you see this booking disparity. That is an opportunity for everyone who works in travel, everyone who works in accommodation, as we've highlighted here, to get out in front of this and improve one's mobile site so that you get these customers who are so turned off by everybody else on their smartphones and tablet experiences that they're continuing to look. And this bears that out. So if we look at the broader e-commerce funnel, and we compare mobile and desktop, it's pretty grim. Like we said, only 3% conversion rate in mobile. That's pretty bad. You may notice the desktop number is pretty high. If anybody here works in online marketing, that's often skewed to some degree by the brand bookings, which tend to have very high conversion rates. But mobile, you'd expect to have skewed as well. So if we want to be fair here, if we take out the brand, so people who come to your site because they already know your brand, they directly navigate, they type in your brand into a search engine. If we pull that out, these conversion rates fall even farther. So how do we get better at converting interest into action and booking on mobile is a major key to unlocking big revenue growth for your business. But speed and simplicity is the way. And one way to do that is with this integration capability to reduce steps in your funnel. So there's this concept of one-step checkout. It's actually really two. It's one to say you want to check out with a third-party booking engine, and another to place the order. So if you think of this as a two-step conversion process, it's pretty darn quick. Most users are working with Google Wallet, or they're working with PayPal, Wallet being specifically oriented towards mobile. But either way, you can cut out mass numbers of forms to fill out, mass numbers of clicks from your customer's conversion path, ultimately simplifying that path and causing them to convert more. In the case of the Fairmont, when we go back and look at those 31 clicks and huge numbers of forms, roughly half of them, slightly over half of those clicks, and the vast majority of the forms, are found in the billing process. It's getting the billing address right, getting the credit card details right. With Google Wallet, all of that's preloaded for your customer base. And Google has such a wide penetration at this point, especially in the US populace, where Google Wallet has its concentration, that many customers, well over 35 million, right now can just directly book via Google Checkout. You throw in somebody like PayPal, that number jumps up even further, although I'm no expert there. The point is, anything you can do to simplify this customer's process is good. Something like Google Wallet, we don't actually charge any extra fees. We don't act as the merchant. We're just a receptacle, a storage point for a user's billing data. This enables you to maintain all the rest of your relationships the same way, keep your processes the same way they've always been, but let your customers check out much faster and thus complete the process at a higher rate. Another thing you're thinking about improving your experience is this concept of Google Plus as a personalization tool. You'll see I noted at the bottom that it's this personalized layer. And it's not really a social network. When it was released, everyone focused on the news feed aspect of Google+. They try to do a direct comparison with Facebook to say, which one's better, Google+ or Facebook? They're really not the same, as much as everyone would like to make them the same, because it makes the comparison easier to do. They're just meant to do different things. Their ultimate purposes are a little different. And I'll talk about the Google+ piece specifically. And that is that it's not meant to be a place where it can be used as a place to upload status messages and photographs. It does a pretty good job of that, in fact. The photo capabilities are outstanding, in my opinion. But what it really does is it provides this personal context for who people are on the web and gives the opportunity for Google and website partners to personalize their content based on the identity of customers. And in fact, to do so between devices. One example of this is this concept of tying together your experience between a mobile phone and another device. So we saw a statistic earlier that 1 in 4 travel booking experiences starts on a mobile phone but ends on a different device. So we've got a big opportunity here right now that tends to be a pretty disjointed experience. Your customer does a search or something like that on their phone, and they collect some research on your site, but they don't really want to book. It takes too long. You have to wade through 20 pages worth of information just to get through the upsell. It's just too much. So they leave and go to their desktop at a future time. Now, right now, for most businesses, if you just go to that desktop, it doesn't know who you are. You have to replicate the whole booking process you already did. It's a pain in the neck. You're actually not as likely to do it. Just put it off. Don't do it. Push it off. Move till a different time or never do it. With Google+, this concept of a single sign-in or an identity lets us piece together when it's the same user using your mobile website and using a desktop website. So you have the ability to deliver them directly to wherever they were before in the booking process automatically. And that doesn't cost anything. We don't sell this type of service. It simply improves the web experience, and if it's good for the web, it's generally good for Google. Just one way, and there are a lot more, but one way in which Google Plus is not really just about status feeds. It's about tying together identity, tying together what people like and how they work across devices. So the device is not, in fact, a barrier. It's an accelerant of web use and web utility. We're coming up a little shorter on time, so let's keep it pushing into this ROI management piece. So we've seen to this point that there are ways digitally to market to customers in a responsible, data-driven way. There's a way to, once they come to the site, track what they've done, be able to tie this together. In fact, we can tie what happens on the website to the origination source of the traffic. So we influenced behavior using marketing that drove them to the website. We're at the point where we can tie those two together with accuracy and, in fact, track them all the way through the booking. That's not where it stops for most of us. We're interested in understanding lifetime value of these users, who's likely to come back again and again. So we talked about remarketing, how we keep people coming back again and again. Now, managing that ROI sounds pretty complicated. But the idea here is that it measures very similarly to your RM systems. With an RM system, you're trying to predict how much a room is worth, for example, based on supply and demand, for your own property, for properties in the area. We're applying that same concept here with customers, which is based on how our customers have performed, who has actually come to our site or called our call center, booked, and come back again and again. how much should we be paying for that person? How much are they worth? So a very similar principle. It's an expected value calculation. We do an expected value when we're pricing out rooms. We do an expected value now with customers. Let's talk about how we do that and optimize our investments for expected value. So first piece here is being able to navigate this complex world. We talked about people calling, or they go to the mobile website, or they go to the desktop website. It's very tricky because customer behavior has taken more paths. It's less straightforward than it was ever in the past. It used to be, you just get the phone call and that's it. But that's not really how it works anymore. So we need to get a grip on all of these different aspects of behavior in order to come up with that expected value effectively and know how much we should be spending to acquire specific customers. And there's a few different dimensions we do this at. So one is this audience concept. Who are these people? Who are the people most likely to provide the most revenue for my business? And on the flip side, who are the people who look like they're promising, but I should stay away from? That's an important area of insight we're addressing on the Google side and addressing for you. Similarly, this referral source piece. So we have a good understanding of these audiences, who these people are, but which methods of bringing them to my experience, to my website or to my call center, which methods are most efficient? Where is the bang for my buck strongest in bringing the right people to what I have to offer? The third piece is content and experience. That's when the right people have followed the right referral sources. What is your website like? What is your web property like? What is your real physical property like? What was the stay like? It's important to understand who does best with what experience, and even what sources of referral are most conducive to specific types of experiences, whether it's online or elsewhere. A user who comes via social media might not be the same type of customer as somebody who comes through search. So how do we provide at scale a customized content experience that's good? And last, but certainly not least, in fact most importantly, the bookings and purchasing activity piece. How much did we actually make from these different users who followed different paths to get to my site, had different experiences? Ultimately, we're all interested in making money. That's the name of the game. So getting this bookings and purchasing activity piece right is the most important out of everything. That's what it boils down to. Our bosses rarely ask us how many visitors we got. It's usually how much money did we make. And by understanding what types of audiences from what referral sources with what experiences make us the most money, lets us capitalize on that information. Lets us produce more of those positive outcomes, while at the same time limiting our investments and our activities in less profitable areas. And we'll help with that. There's a number of different ways you can go. There are quite a few different tracking programs available, but we've got a few that are free. So the first one, sort of the simple one, is conversion tracking with Google. That enables you to track who made it to the end of the process, who actually booked, how much did they spend with you, and then be able to automatically tie that back to your search keywords or your display ads or wherever else you advertised online with Google, be able to tie those directly together so that you can quickly at a glance know where your money came from and where you spent money and didn't get anything back. So you do more of what makes you money and do less of what doesn't. And there's actually a few automated tools around that. So if you really don't want to deal with it and you know how much money you need to make, you can start to set it and mostly forget it. Analytics is the slightly more intense tool, more sophisticated one that lets you track user behavior not just from Google but from all of your marketing campaigns, all over the map. In fact, Analytics has some pretty advanced capabilities to even tap into your backend. So the ability to import data from your booking engine, from your backend, from your sales database, from your CRM system, back into analytics, so you have a more true view of what you made from certain customers, imported directly with your data about who they are, where they came from, and what experience they had. And actually, all of that is importable into AdWords, which is the Google advertising system. So you have this single, integrated, streamlined system, capable, that ties together the users who book and become your customers, their long-term experiences, all the way through the initial touch you had with them in marketing. So that's giving you the ability from there to start to forecast how much a user is worth to your business, the expected value of that user, before you've ever actually touched them. Extending this revenue management concept beyond room pricing and expected value for room inventory all the way out to marketing and customer acquisition. Very powerful concept. And ultimately, it lets you spend the money in the right place. The same way that being good at RM makes your business a lot more money if you do it right. Having an integrated system that applies some of the same principles to your marketing lets you take advantage of your intelligence, maximize your revenue as a consequence, your ROI as a consequence. So that's it for now. I was hoping to wrap up at 11:45. It's about 11:50 Pacific time. Apologies for running about 5 minutes over. But I will turn it over now to Raj in case we have any questions.
Thanks, James. That was very insightful and tons of information there. We got a couple of very good questions already, and if anybody else has any questions, please type it in right now, and we will try and get to it in our allotted time. First question is, you talked about cross-device tracking report. Is that already launched, or is it going to be launched in the next few days?
Good question. So it's already being rolled out to advertisers now, so it's a rolling launch.
Okay.
Which means if you don't have it now, you will very shortly. So just keep your eyes out on your AdWords account, and if it's something that you want sooner rather than later, we can't make any promises, but if you call the AdWords support line, which is, if anybody is taking notes, 866-2-GOOGLE, you can speak with one of our reps and they can help you out. But it's very darn cool. It's very cool. The ability to estimate conversions that cross devices is frankly pretty mind-blowing. It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful overall. Next, what I have is in terms of conversion tracking. Most hotels, actually 99% of the hotels, I would say, have a booking engine that's managed by a third party. And we have to do cross-domain tracking. And typically, we run into issues with cross-domain tracking, either the revenue is not tracked correctly or some other issue. Is there any best practices to doing that, or do you have any resource that you can point us to?
Sure. Really good question, and a pretty common one when you've got a couple of different domains at play there. That's pretty technical, so I might punt on this one a little bit, but I can give I can give an answer at sort of a strategic level about how to think about it and what we've done with our partners, just to give you some idea of your options.
Okay.
So one possible option is dynamic fields. So it's very possible to basically have fields pop up even across domains that only pop up when they're processing your booking funnel. So a customer comes from your booking stream. It's possible to have these basically custom fields that pop up your tracking code as opposed to somebody else. Now, everybody has a vested interest in you processing more business and making more money. Sometimes booking engines need a little bit of inducement. And convincing that that's the case. Believe me, I've been in on some of those meetings where that level of inducement is necessary. But I mean, the more bookings they make and process for you, the more you're going to be willing to pay them. So ultimately, it's in everybody's best interest to ramp up to be as efficient as possible. Any inefficiency in this market that's costing you sales, costs everybody involved with your business money.
Yep.
So there's some powerful incentives to integrate. Now the technical piece of that I'll probably hold off on just in the interest of time, which is how to configure dynamic fields, how a container tag works. If you're going to do some research on Google, you can Google container tag for how you can have custom inserted code based on different dependencies that precede getting to a certain page on a website. But to do the homework here is to research the concept of a container tag and dynamic field. Okay. And then if you call the number I issued earlier, you can get some more specific help and guidance around where to take it from there.
Excellent. Got a few more questions, and great questions actually, and a few of them are leading towards Google Hotel Finder. So let me give you the first one. So everything that we talked about, how does that get tied into Google Hotel Finder?
Another really good question. This is a bright group. They're honing in on the really big stuff, which I like. So Hotel Finder is a part of this hotel discovery process we alluded to during the search section. So at the high level, I won't recap that too much, but at the high level, it's giving people who know they want a hotel a more immersive experience with additional data. Where it started was largely a separate experience, with Hotel Finder being completely distinct from the Google.com experience, and then it progressively has incorporated more of Hotel Finder directly onto search results pages. That's likely to continue, where we have that type of data surfaced. But what the Hotel Finder experience is, what that embedded, we call them hotel price ads for the advertiser modules. What that experience is changing pretty quickly, and the main way it's changing is away from what I would call a commodity model, so a price-based model, increasingly towards one that weights quality and value as much, or maybe even more than the price in its own right. And don't want to go into too much of the lingo here, but one of the main ways we're doing this is through something called room bundles. Okay. And that's a short way of saying we let you surface more information about the services you get and the quality you get with your room. So what are the community features? What are the room features? What are the services available that differentiate that experience? And that's especially important for any premium hotel offerings, in that it changes this Hotel Finder experience from really one that seems to favor the low-cost providers and discounters, often aggregators, like centralized aggregators, to hotels who, and because what hotels do better than anything is provide experience, provide outstanding experiences to their customers, surfacing that experience more prominently.
Okay, and the room bundle feature, is that available to everybody, or is that, how can hotels access that?
Yeah, so it's also in the process of rolling out. Yeah. It's right now, it's sort of a rudimentary API feature. Okay. So a lot of what I'm talking about is where things are going very shortly, as opposed to things that you can do right out of the gate right now. Okay. The best thing to do right out of the gate, if you're running any hotel price ads, is to make sure your feed is up, it is stable, and the scope of your engagement covers the scope of your hotel footprint. So room bundles are very cool, but we get a lot of questions about how to do things like room bundles and how to do some of the really fancy things from folks who still haven't even gotten their feed configured. So it's one of those one foot in front of another things, and for many folks, once that feed is up, bids are being correctly submitted, all those basics are worked out, we'll have some of the more advanced features worked out. So food for thought to work on right now is getting those basics up and running and fleshed out, but room bundles should be pretty shortly available.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that, but first, since you're talking about the feed, I got a couple of questions about it. Is how do you manage to first get that feed going? Like, who do you work with for that? Because it's still not available to at like individual hotel level. So who do you talk to for that? typically, and how can you manage your photos or anything that is going into that feed as well, apart from rates?
Yeah, so there's a few actual like sub-questions that are wrapped up in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So one piece is about what you can do versus what's easy to do. So, any hotel that wants to participate in Hotel Finder, we'll call it HPA for Hotel Price Ads, because those can be distributed actually if you make a feed, not just to the hotel finding experience, but increasingly to things like Google Maps. Major possible, just a little clue hint here, I won't fully tip my hand, but keep your eyes on Maps as a big place for hotels. So I think the underlying issue here is that it's a lot easier for OTAs, for example, to do this. It's a lot easier for OTAs. Because of the scale, because of the number of properties, it makes more sense for them to make a single resource investment with a single feed.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, that's I think a fair criticism, is that it's a little easier, and it's also easier for the large scale of suppliers, although only marginally so, because of the decentralization even within large supplier groups. So what I'd say is right now OTAs they probably have it easier because of the technical difficulty, but suppliers are right there in large chains, but it requires coordination. It requires there to be some type of centralized marketing control that asserts authority and is willing to give resources to make this happen for all of the different properties. The toughest place, but not impossible, is at that local level. But the way that I think most folks are activating this is even just getting interns. To be fair, it doesn't take a long time to set up one of these feeds, and once it's up, it's a maintenance issue. So it's a little strange to say it, but marketing companies are hiring engineers. Agencies are, companies, marketing departments are hiring engineers, and they're getting engineering interns for free from their local universities or paying them a relatively modest wage in comparison to a full-time employee. But the bang for the buck tends to be quite large.
Okay, so the best approach would be work with an agency that is already doing this and get them to set this up for you at the moment. That's the easiest way of getting going.
That's probably the easiest way. Is a lot of agencies manage these for their clients. They've got templates. Okay. So just get one of those templates out, and then if you are a part of a larger chain, this is a big possible opportunity to spearhead at the multi-property level. Okay. So big growth opportunity here. Okay.
A few more questions that have come in. I'll follow it up. How are we doing for time, James? Just want to be...
Yeah, I probably have until about 10 afternoon, so I've got about another 8 minutes.
Excellent. I'll try and get through them all. So the next question is about Google Wallet. Has there been a significant growth in user adoption, and are people using that as a method of payment? And the other thing is, if people are using it, have you seen booking engine companies who have adopted that as a method of payment or not?
Yeah, another awesome question and really insightful, effectively noting a divergence in user behavior and booking engine behavior. So to the former question, yeah, there's a huge number of people who use Wallet. Actually, the specific number is escaping me, but it's over 30 million in the United States. So if you think of that as a total percentage of internet population, I'll ballpark it at about a fourth. Okay. So for a product that was released, like 6 months ago, that's incredible adoption. That's incredible adoption. That adoption skies virtually any other high growth tech product I've ever heard of. And a lot of it is there's an existing base that's big with Google, so existing users are right there to upgrade because they're already within the ecosystem. But we really just started pushing this. We actually only had our initial launch a couple of quarters ago. I know off the top of my head that we had at least 1 or 2 large OTAs be involved. One of them was Expedia. So certainly the big guys are getting in on the action early. They're seeing the dynamics be worth it for them to get involved. But the second part of that is the booking engine piece of the house. And I think the answer is there, much like the answer I gave earlier, that there's something of a divergence between behavior there. That's, again, it's a big opportunity for everyone. to initiate that discussion, especially, and this is a place where, especially if you have a Google team or a Google rep, which you can figure out by calling 866 to Google and asking.
Okay.
That's a place where you can get some facilitation help,
Okay.
or at least be connected through to somebody who works with Wallet. Wallet's in massive growth mode. So if you've got a good lead or you are willing to work with us to initiate a discussion, we very, very rarely say no to starting up those types of discussions. I recommend you reach out.
Brilliant. So I have a question for you. You said like the user behavior has changed quite a bit between like the mobile devices, whether they're smartphone, tablet, or desktop. Like people are traveling, like using them throughout their buying process or making a decision about buying on just one of the devices. Are you seeing a difference in how they are behaving in terms of like booking windows? Like do you see that if somebody is searching on a mobile device, he's going to make a booking immediately versus somebody who started on a desktop, then moved on to a mobile device or to somewhere, another device that may take a little bit longer to make a booking? Are you seeing anything, that kind of difference in behavior?
Yes, it tends to be last minute.
Okay.
I don't have the number on me. I've got it somewhere close by. It's one that I've used before in talking with partners. But any mobile interaction tends to be highly correlated to last minute bookings.
Okay.
So in fact, I think it was Expedia who said that they had crossed past 1/3 of their bookings being their last minute bookings being on mobile. That's a public statement.
Okay.
So you know, in the past, if we're on the supply side, we might have said that last minute inventory to a discounter,
Yep.
Like a discount OTA and opaque, especially opaque engines. If you do a good job on mobile, it actually has a double benefit. One is there's just a lot of users to go out there and capture, and the other is for every room you close that you pull out of an opaque OTA, for example, you've got direct revenue coming in the gate, which again, it doesn't mean that there's not a big place for opaque models for OTA work at the last minute.
Okay.
Right now, let's be fair, OTAs, I think, by and large, have gotten ahead in the web space and even
Yep.
in mobile. I mean, after all, they are online travel agencies. That's what they focus on. It makes tons of sense for OTAs to have that type of expertise as opposed to hotels, which have to run a whole hotel, have that whole experience. That being said, mobile's far less figured out than desktop. You know, it took years to figure out desktop, and online travel agencies took all of those years to figure it out. Mobile is at that new, fresh stage, so there is an opportunity, frankly, for both OTAs and for suppliers to try to get out in front here and figure out how to make this work best. It's a wide open season right now for mobile.
Okay. I have one last question for you, and if we don't have any follow-up after that, then we'll close that this webinar. One last question would be, like, since there are so many Google tools like Google+, Google Search, Google Analytics, and we can do various level of integration with all those tools, does that impact in terms of a user, a web surfer, being able to easily find the hotel? Like, does that improve rankings? Does that improve discoverability? What's the ultimate impact of doing that integration?
Sure. So there's a direct impact and there's an indirect impact, if you can think about it in this way. So so in terms of direct visibility, let's start with the most obvious ones, which is if you're running a search engine ad, for example, and you appear at the top of the page, you will then be visible in a place where you may not have been as visible before. And there's actually some great third-party studies where even if you show up in the top organic link, so the top SEO listing, there can be 50% plus incrementality in clicks if you also show an ad even on your brand term when you're in position 1. So there's quite a bit of, and you can look at search engine land if you do a search for a search engine land study and then some additional term that qualifies that you're looking at organic with brand ads. Yeah. You can find it on the web, but the idea is that's one way, is just having organic isn't enough. Second piece, outside of just being more visible through paying to put your ad in front of people, is something like that personalization layer. So we do value providing the best experience possible to users. In fact, that's our #1 priority at all times, is providing the best user experience possible at every turn. So if you're using something like Google+, for example, to tie user experiences together to make that more smooth, more cohesive, clearly if that supports the user experience, that's something we support too. And although we don't comment directly on what happens on the organic side of the house at a granular level, we can definitely say that better user experience equals more happiness from Google, more support. So that's the second piece. And then the last piece, which I wanted to touch on because you specifically mentioned it, Raj, is the tracking and attribution piece.
Yes.
That's especially important. I mean, when we talk about producing a good experience, tracking and attribution tells you what's working and what's not. It tells you what types of users have a good experience on your website, and you know they have a good experience because they stayed on your site and they completed the booking process. They finished, whether it was in that specific session or they came back later on and booked on a different device. And your attribution and your ties to that user in order to optimize your experience, to make your experience better, again, is recognized. A better user experience is more valuable for Google and for your customers than a better user experience is better than a worse one. This is not like a lot of people ask me about SEO. I got to do a little tangent here. I'm willing to run over for this tangent. I get asked about SEO all the time. I get asked, oh, how should I structure my meta tags for my SEO page? Or what about the keyword frequency on the page? And I have to restrain myself because it's really much more simple than that. You know, there may be tweaks that SEO firms do which can be valuable to get rank up, but by and large, it's about quality of content and quality of user experience. Is your site secure? Is it navigable? Is it transparent? Is the quality of the content valuable? And you'll know that your site is all of those things when customers have a better experience and they buy more. So instead of focusing on what Google wants from an organic SEO perspective, focusing on producing a better user experience, whether that's with your ads outbound before they've come to your site or after they've come to your site, a better user experience will be looked on more favorably by us. And it's likely to have a much bigger impact than any sort of tinkering you might do with your meta tags and whatever's going on with specific keywords on the site. It's much more complicated than that, I promise. If it was simple and as easy to do as that, everyone would have figured it out.
So basically give the user what they're looking for, improve the overall experience, net result, improvement in like revenue because you have actually provided what the user was actually looking for overall.
Yeah, if a user, if you provide what a user wants before the user realizes they want it through a good stimulus, if you provide what the user wants by giving them a tailored message at the right time based on what they've decided they want, off of your site, they come to your site and they either book there or they call your call center and they have a great experience there. They have a great stay at your hotel. You serve them great ads that talk to their experience and offer them a deal, and they get so excited and happy because you really listened and you come back to them that they keep staying with you again and again and again. It's great for the user. It's great for your business. You make a bunch of money. And Google considers the whole thing a big success because our clients are users first and then advertising partners.
Excellent.
Those are the two. So that's it. That's it. If you're successful, we're successful. We cannot be successful as Google unless you are successful, and that's why we're so excited about partnering with your businesses, particularly in this area of travel and properties, because this new world, this world of mobile, this world of interconnected devices and attribution, where everything is streamlined from front to back, is tailor-made to make hotels and restaurants a success. So I guess we can leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that. So on that message, thanks, James, for taking the time and running over for the allotted time of the webinar. This was extremely helpful. Lots of insightful content, lots of insightful comments. And thanks everybody who joined us today. If you have any follow-up questions even further than this that come up afterwards, please feel free to email me, and I will get the answers going and email you back. We do have a recording of the webinar, so what I'll do with that is basically email out the recording to everybody, and then hopefully you can share it with your team from there on. Again, thank you everybody for joining us, and hope you have a great day. Thanks, James. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raj. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.